Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a good week. What today's topic is going to be on is letting go. I've had a few requests for this here, and I think it's pretty important in your leading a positive lifestyle or any kind of effect where you find yourself holding on to a lot of things. We tend to internalize things as humans, where somebody might be directing something at your performance or something that you may have done. It may not be a direct attack at yourself. So these are just some tips that I have that you can help to get rid of these little things that we tend to hold on to. Now, they are sort of steps, but I don't have any kind of number system for them or anything like that. It's just kind of you work through the whole process and you go through that. So, with that being said, I'll start off with what I guess would be number one. And the first question you got to ask yourself when it comes to any kind of thing like this is how important is this person in your life? So if somebody's attacking you, saying something verbally abusive to you, saying something to you at work, somebody passing by you on the street, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, and I say usually anything 3 or 4 or less, you can basically let go of right away. I'll tell you how to do that. And the reason why I say that is because if it's just somebody passing by on the street and they call you a name, is that something you're going to let ruin the rest of your day? Probably not. Now, if a family member says something to you, that would be higher up on the scale, an 8, 9, or a 10. And that's something you may hold on to because they're pretty important in your life. So, 1, 2, and 3, somebody who passes by the street, 3, 4, and 5, maybe an acquaintance, somebody you know through a coffee shop or that you met through another friend. 6, 7, and 8, you're probably looking at a good friend, and 8, 9, and 10, best friends, family, that kind of stuff, spouses. So, how much do you value their opinion? Again, when it comes to that scaling system, that's going to basically depend on how much you value their opinion. Again, somebody walking by you on the street calls you a name, probably not going to value that as much as when someone in your family calls you the same name. Number two would be is what is being said to you or that has been done to you, is it true or is it done intentionally? Okay, so if somebody comes by and they call you some sort of derogatory name on the street. So somebody calls you a jerk when they walk by you. All right, is that true? Are you really a jerk? Ask yourself that question. And am I really a jerk? Well, no. All right, or yeah, I am. So we lead into the next step, which would be what can I do to change that specific situation? So, leading with that example, am I a jerk? So, when you ask yourself that question, you kind of look and say, well, am I really a jerk? Again, somebody passing by you on the street, you just go, well, you're really the jerk because you're the one that called me, and that's not very nice. Or a family member, a friend, someone else's, you're kind of a jerk. Take a look at yourself and say, okay, well, maybe I am. So you start looking around at the things you do, and you go, okay, well, you know what? I make fun of other people when I'm walking down the street. I always push people over when I walk by them. I steal things from people. Those kinds of things that would label you as a jerk. Now you can go, okay, I am a bit of a jerk, but what can I do to change those things? So, you know what? I'm not going to push people over when I walk by them anymore. Or, I'm not going to steal things from people. So there's things that you can do to change that situation. So you make an attempt to change that situation as the next step. So it's not going to be an instantaneous change. It's not something tomorrow I'm going to not be a jerk. Because again, it's behaviors we've learned over life and they've lasted for however many years. It's going to take some time for you to work through those and say, okay, you know what? I'm no longer going to be a jerk. I'm going to start tomorrow by saying hi to people when I walk by them. Okay, you may still steal things once in a while. You still may push people over. You still may do a few things, and don't let that set you back. What you're looking for is to make one change and then work on that change and continue to do those change. So attempt to change the thing that was said or done to you. Now, if you've attempted to do it, ask yourself, has the situation changed? Okay, so over the next couple of weeks, you go, yeah, you know what? I've actually become a better person. I'm no longer being mean to people when I walk by them. I'm not calling them names. I'm not making fun of anybody. I have actually made a change. Great. So if that's great, if that has happened, then amazing. That is wonderful. Give yourself a pat in the back. Give yourself some sort of a reward. Now, if the situation hasn't changed, you got to ask yourself, will you allow this to affect the rest of your day, week, or month? Now, if it's something that's a personal change, again, you got to give yourself some time. So there might be a little bit where you're going to hold on to it and say, yeah, you know what, this really bugs me. I feel so bad about the things I do. I was never really aware of it. Give yourself some time for that change to take place. Because if you're going to sit there and say, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this, but you go out and you steal something or you call somebody a name and you go, well, that didn't work, and you give up. Well, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself some time for change. Um, when you're asking yourself if you're going to let this affect the rest of your day, those changes, like I said, are progressive and they do take time. So let go of that whole situation of going, well, it didn't happen instantly, because it's not something. Change takes time, especially for learned behaviors, as you can pretty much expect to invest as much time in changing the behavior as you put into gaining the behavior. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, oh my God, I've been doing this for 15, 20 years. Can I expect to be another 15 to 20 years before I change it? Not necessarily, okay? These things do take time, though. For some, it could take 15 to 20 years for them to change a behavior. And that is something that comes along with the territory, more so in behaviors that you've had that have been detrimental either to your health, your well-being, other people in your life, that there is a number of changes involved in that one large change. I can explain more about that if I get into addictions, mental health issues, any kind of abuse and stuff like that, being judgmental. Those are all things that take a lot of time to change, because again, it's something that's either been ingrained in us since we were children, or something we learned as teens and have continued over into our adult years. Now, the next thing that you have to do is, when you are looking at relinquishing control, you're going to have to let this go. Okay? Now, that involves a process of relinquishing control over to a higher power. And that involves spirituality. Again, it's another topic I can get into. So, a higher power, the universe, nature, a God, however you may want to call it. This isn't giving up. This is basically saying that, you know what, I don't have to focus on this anymore. I'm going to allow someone else to maintain that focus. That's why a higher power of any kind is something good, because you can go, you know what, higher power, this is for you. I'm going to just focus on the good part of my day from this point forward. I've made a note that I'm going to make these changes, and keep that conscious. Be aware that, okay, I'm going to make these changes, but what happened, that situation that led to you wanting to change, let go of that situation. Let the higher power take that and say, okay, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. I'm done focusing on it, because I want to be in a good mood. So again, leading back to that jerk example, I want to make the changes. That person that walked by and called me that, they don't know I want to make these changes. They don't care what happens. They're on their way. They're not worried about it anymore. They're laughing because they called you a jerk, and now they're talking about something else. So for you, move on to something else as well. Move into something more positive. Um, it's just saying that you've been able to release this, and now you can continue on with your day. Okay, and with that involves turning a negative into a positive. This is a really large topic. This is something else I'll get into another video about. There's a number of ways you can turn any situation into something positive. So any negative situation can be turned around into a positive. Again, the jerk example, the positive thing is that you now are aware of your behaviors and what others have thought of you. And it's okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow. I'm going to learn from this experience, and I'm actually going to apply it into being a better person. So you become more self-aware. And again, I'll get into a lot more detail on how to turn a negative into a positive, because it is a large topic. It's not just something simple as, oh, I'm going to think about this and it'll just turn into something positive. It takes a lot of work to be able to do this. The other thing I want you to be wary of is to take into consideration other states of mind or their perceptions, as well as their life situation. Now, what I mean by that is their state of mind. Maybe they're in a really bad mood because they had a fight with a spouse, or they got in trouble with the boss or at school. And they're lashing out at others because they're feeling pretty low and they don't want others to feel happy around them. So that may just be an attack going, you know what, I don't like your happiness. I don't like the way you are right now. I'm going to bring you down a peg or two. The other thing is their perceptions. Perceptions are a wide variety of things that nobody really knows. You can't say, oh, I know what that guy's perception is. I know what that woman's perception is. I know what they're thinking, because everyone's perception of everything is different. When people are looking at my videos, there's a number of different perceptions that are going on, and there's no way that I can control what anyone's perceptions is of this. They might think it's the greatest thing ever. They might think it's the dumbest thing ever. They might like the way I say things. They might like how I break things down. They might not like how I move my hands around a lot. I can't control any kind of perceptions like that. So take that into consideration that maybe they have a different perception on a situation than you do. So if you're pretty happy with yourself in the way that you are, somebody calls you a jerk, maybe they don't know you as well as they think they do. Or, again, it's an opportunity for you to look at yourself and say, is there things that I can change? The other thing I meant by life situation is what that person may be going through. This might take some speculation on your part, or you may know the person well enough to go, you know what, I know they're not in a good state of mind right now because they're going through a divorce. They're not getting enough sleep at night. They've been fighting with so and so every day. So they're just not in a good frame of mind. And that can affect the way that people actually treat you as well. So the whole point of this here for letting go, it's a basic step on letting go of those small things that happen throughout a day, whether it be something the boss says to you at work, something that somebody says to you passing by you, somebody does something malicious towards you. I'm not talking violence or anything like that, but if somebody intentionally does something to get you into trouble, those little things, it's a little idea of just kind of doing internal dialogue and talking to yourself and say, am I going to be able to work past this, or am I going to let this affect the rest of my day? And I don't want you to confuse this with the grieving process, because again, it's another huge topic. Letting go is not the same as grieving. Grieving is a whole different process when it comes to dealing with losing someone or something, and there are a number of steps involved in that that you have to work through. Letting go won't help with. So please don't take that as, hey, this is a great way for me to get over the loss of a loved one or a pet or my job or an addictive substance even. So I can cover that again in another video, but this letting go is more or less just to help you work through those little bits in a day where you might get stuck in a rut. I used an example in one of my older videos about having a rough day at work because people were constantly calling in sick. Said I was in a bad mood basically from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed because I knew the situation was going to be so bad. I took these steps, and it's okay, is what's being done intentionally? Well, they're not attacking me personally. They're not sitting there and saying, yeah, you know what, I'm going to screw Andrew over and I'm going to put him through hell at work by not showing up. They weren't thinking of me when they were doing it. They were just calling in sick because they either were legitimately sick or had other reasons for calling in sick and weren't thinking of the situation that would follow from doing it. What I asked myself is, what can I do to change the situation? Okay, I spoke to the bosses and said, is there any way we can get these people to show up on time or show up at all? I spoke to them individually and said, is there any way you can give us a little bit more notice if you're not going to show up? I took the steps necessary to try to change the situation. For some, they did change, and others, the situation just continued on. For the ones that continued on, there was nothing I could do. It was out of my control. I can't sit there and say, okay, I'm going to go to that person's house. I'm going to wake them up. I'm going to make sure that they're going to show up to work on time. That's not realistic. So I had to find a way to be able to work past that and say, okay, how have we been managing without this person here? And honestly, the team I was working with, we did a great job working together to pick up the slack when others weren't there. So things actually worked out okay. We had a lot more work to do than normal, but we were able to manage it. And rather than focusing on the negativity of the fact that these people weren't showing up, I focused on the positive side that I have an amazing team to work with. I'm glad that I had these people around me because I couldn't be doing this all myself. Um, the other part where I said relinquish control is it's out of my control. I'm not going to focus on it anymore. I'm going to let the universe or nature or God take over control of that. And it's like, now you focus on that. I don't want to have to worry about these people showing up on time or showing up at all. You take care of it. I'm going to focus on the job and the people that I have next to me that are good people and that are helping me through this awkward situation. Uh, the negative into a positive thing was, you know what, because of the fact that we're able to pick up all the slack with this person missing, the bosses noticed. So when it came time for a raise in the 6 months or a year, that was the main focal point, and I was able to point that out to them, which led to a promotion in my case. So there was something positive that did come from it, and if that person was actually there, would they have been a help to us at all? More than likely not. The other thing was to take into considerations other states of mind, their life, and their perception. Again, thinking from their perspective, maybe they didn't actually think they were hurting anybody by not showing up. It's just one person, so how much can I do any damage? It's not a big deal. It's one day. Who cares? Or maybe they're having a tough time in their life. That was speculation on my part. It could be any number of things like I listed before. And then the other thing is their state of mind. Maybe they weren't clear minded at the time when they called in, or maybe they were on different substance that said, yeah, you know what, I'm not coming in tomorrow because I have more important things to do. So I was able to work through that whole situation and basically allow that negative situation turn into something positive where I wasn't thinking about it when I woke up in the morning and getting mad because people weren't showing up. I was happy because of the team that I had that made it amazing for me to go to work. Um, I also wasn't mad when I left work because we did do a great job and we did get rewarded. So there was a lot of good things, and I didn't have that negativity in my life anymore. So without me being negative, I wasn't making others feel negative. And the whole positivity of the group that I worked with, basically the level went up, the morality all went up. So I hope this has helped you guys. I don't want to keep the video too long. And like I said, I'm going to do a video on grieving because it is completely different than the letting go process. And it is something that I want to get into because I know there are a few people out there that have had trouble letting go of that or holding on to the grief of certain situations in their life. And I know it would be valuable. This is a good little tip to help you kind of work through maybe a day and once I get through the whole grieving process, you'll actually understand the steps you have to go through in the process of grieving versus the steps that you would go through in letting go. So I hope this has helped you guys out quite a bit. And as much as I can, I'm going to stay positive for today and let go of anything that's out of my control. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you guys shortly. Thank you very much.